Welcome to the PTS podcast where the Poulters Talk Sports. It's been a while, but we are back after some technical and other difficulties, but today we're doing an NFC West preview, obviously with a focus on the San Francisco 49ers, given our location in the Bay Area, and we're actually going to kick that off with a team about as south as you can get in this division, in Arizona, over in Phoenix. The Arizona Cardinals, coming off an okay year. They had Kyler Murray injured for the first half of the year, ended up getting one of the top picks in the draft and selecting Marvin Harrison Jr. with the 4th overall pick. Where do you think the Cardinals stand before we dive into their schedule?
To me, the Cardinals feel like a year away, where this is like you have no expectations. If you do well, good job. If you don't do well, you're building for the future. You're not going to fire your coach. You may figure out your quarterback if you're going to go that route, but I don't know how much Murray's deal is like a boat anchor of doom. So that's a thing. I think they're going to be better. We're going to find out how much better. But I don't. They've drafted well. They've picked up some sneaky, okay, good players, and I like Marvin Harrison. He's not my favorite wide receiver, but you can't be like, oh, I hate that. It's like, yeah, he's gonna be most likely very good, but he's just kind of like I think their team is 1, maybe 2 years away, especially depending on what happens with the rest of the division. They could be one of those teams that kind of just pops out of nowhere and like takes a 6th playoff spot, and you go, okay, Arizona, good for you, and then they get whacked in the first round. You're like, good job, Arizona.
To me, the best comparison is a couple years ago, Detroit. So they were slowly rebuilding, taking top talent, but still like performing poorly, but kind of slowly building. Obviously, Detroit kind of popped this year. I don't think Arizona's going to do that this year. I think that's more likely next year, like we're talking about. So
that would be wild.
Let's get into their schedule. We're going to have you try and see where you have them. The line is at 7.5. Week 1 at the Buffalo Bills.
Loss. Unless there's like a weather thing, then coin flip.
We've got 3 straight home games, which is a nice way to start the year following that game.
But does the Cardinals have a home field advantage? I don't think they do.
Particularly. They are in a dome. They are like in a specific environment, so kinda. Week 2, the Los Angeles Rams.
I will say loss, but that very much could very easily be a win. I think I'm higher on the Rams.
Home to Detroit.
Loss.
Home to the Commanders.
Win.
I
think especially if they're 0-3, that's one of those, we better win, shit's about to hit the fan. So I think a win.
At San Francisco.
Loss. Close, but
Green
loss.
Bay.
Loss. It's not going well for my ideas of things.
Home for the Chargers on Monday Night Football.
That screams of the Chargers still find a way to mess that up. Surprise win. I'm not sure if that's a hot take or not, but we're gonna go with win.
Travel to Miami.
In what month?
Tail end of October.
Okay, so it's not going to be humid as shit.
It's not going to be terrible.
Loss, but maybe one of those freaky overtime losses.
Home to the Fighting Caleb Williams and the Chicago Bears.
Caleb Williams. I'm going to go with win. But I'm not confident in that after what we saw from Caleb Williams this past weekend.
Home to Aaron Rodgers and the New York Jets.
if Mr. Shaman is on the field, I'll take the Jets. If he is not, I will not be taking the Jets.
Okay. Bye week. Following the bye week, travel to Seattle.
It's at Seattle. Ugh.
Correct.
Loss, but I think they're gonna split 1-1. So I'm gonna take this as the loss, but I think there's a non-0% chance they win this one and then lose their home again.
At our mascot, Sam Darnold, who sees ghosts in Minnesota.
Oh, the fighting Ghost Brigade.
So no JJ McCarthy this year, out for the year.
Can't bench Darnold when there's no one to bench him for.
Yep. Current backup is Nick
that's
Mullins.
A win. I am very low on Minnesota.
Home to Seattle.
I said lost last time, so win this time.
Home to New England.
Win.
At Carolina.
Win.
At the Rams.
Win.
Home for the 49ers.
Loss.
Okay.
But there's...
Well, you would be taking the over. That is 8 wins for the Arizona
really?
Cardinals. Yep. So what's nice about the Cardinals schedule is, keep in mind, the Cardinals get to play Sam Darnold.
Yeah, the middle. Bryce if they Young. Can get through the beginning of their schedule, they're fine. But
so they play Sam Darnold, Bryce Young, Caleb Williams, Jaden Daniels, and Drake May.
That's not bad.
Those are 5 games outside of the division.
Yeah, but those could also be a new quarterback emerges by stunting on your corpse.
Sure.
It's just like, oh god.
So let's transition away from Arizona, because I think we both agree they're a year away. Let's take a look at the Los Angeles Rams.
Time for some Rammies.
So, big news out of Rams camp, obviously dating back a couple months. No more Aaron Donald, arguably the best defensive player of our generation. I want to say he made the first team All-Pro every year he played, or something absurd. He was so good. First ballot Hall of Famer.
University of Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
For whatever
dropped
reason.
In the draft too. He was like the 13th pick.
But no one really understood what a defensive tackle could be until he was like, "Hey, I'm a defensive tackle." They're like, "You're not a defensive tackle."
Yeah, all the emphasis was on edge rushers at the time. So,
and then they're like, "What if we modernize the defensive tackle position instead of just making it a gigantic blob? You make it an athletic blob."
Yeah,
that's good.
Most of the coaching staff still intact. Puka Nacua does have a minor injury, which is a little bit of a concern, but Cooper Kupp is hopefully back to 100%. He struggled with some injuries last year. Matthew Stafford had a hamstring issue, I think. Had like a thigh issue, so hopefully he's fine. He was back.
I think that was part of the some contract stuff. I'm not sure.
Oh, was it? It might be, because he's looking for a extension. So right. Let's get rolling.
Are you ready?
The LA Rams, who, before we, go into their schedule, I would think I'm higher on the Rams than most people. So
I am,
and their over/under is set at 8.5.
Yeah, I'm high on the Rams in the same way as there's this weird, and we'll get to it later. There's this weird feeling I get that the Niners are going to do some dumb shit this season, and I can't tell.
I don't know what it is yet.
Fully what it is yet, but it could just be, Brock Purdy got hurt, and you're like, welcome to the Josh Dobbs show. And you're like, okay.
Baby.
Yeah, and then yikes. Okay, so starting off with a heater, Sunday Night Football versus the Detroit Lions in Mr. Eminemville.
Okay, so a couple things I want to clarify at the beginning of this rundown.
Aggressive.
Oh, excuse me. Sorry.
Which are?
The The Rams don't really have a home field. SoFi
This
is
is true.
consistently 65-35 away team. So
relatively.
And then on top of that, this first game is the Jared Goff, Matthew Stafford pseudo revenge game.
True.
I'm high on the Lions. I'm gonna get a loss to the Rams.
Sure. Week 2 versus the fighting Arizona Smedugladoos.
Where?
The Cardinals. At State Farm Stadium in Arizona.
Okay, so they still haven't had a home game, which is tough. You just had the Cardinals losing that, so I will continue. I will have the Rams winning this.
How dare you, copycat. Week 3, we're playing in Levi South versus the 49ers.
So it's SoFi or Levi?
Yeah, Levi South.
That's tough. Now the Rams typically do play them tough, but I want to say Shanahan is 5-1 since joining the division, or 7-1 or something like that against the Rams. So he's kind of had their number. So
outside of last year's week 18 or 17 Carson Wentz
I was
give
gonna
up
say
game.
resting the starters and stuff. Yeah.
But outside of that and the playoff game, the rest he's won basically.
So I'll go with the Niners. So tough start again for another team in this division.
Let's see here.
So 1-2.
Bing bong. They travel for their 4th straight road game to Chicago Bears.
Well, kind of their 4th straight road game.
I will see how many Niners fans are at SoFi that week. It's going to be a lot.
In Chicago.
On early 10 a.m.
Yeah,
cross-country
Give me the Rams. Give
you the Rammies. Then they welcome the Green Bay Packers.
Loss.
The Packerinis.
Because that's gonna be a lot of Packers fans.
Bye week, and then they welcome back home the Las Vegas Raiders. The Raiders.
Would think that would be an absolute shellacking. So I will take the Rams.
Sure. No faith in Minshew?
I actually like Minshew, but a quality coach coming off a bye against what is essentially a rookie head coach, give me the quality coach.
Sure, that's fair. Then they welcome the Fighting Darnolds.
Win
on Thursday Night Football, so short week, but it is still at
Minnesota
home.
traveling. Yeah, give me the Rams.
Then they head up to Seattle for a Sunday game, so
Lost.
10 days of rest.
Ooh, 10 days of rest. You bring up a point.
Yeah.
I still think they lose. Traveling to Seattle's really hard.
Then they welcome the Dolphins for Monday Night Football, so 1 extra day of rest.
Dolphins, Monday Night Football, Dolphins cross country, but I think that the offense travels. Give me the Dolphins. So a loss.
Fighting Quackers. Then they head to New England, 10 a.m. game.
What month is that in?
It's late November.
Give me the Patriots in a stunner.
You maniac. Then they welcome the Eagles.
I think there is no team I am less sure about than the Philadelphia Eagles.
Whoa, how dare you?
I have that team could win 3 games.
You monster!
They could win 3 or 14 games, and I would just shrug and be like, yeah, that makes sense.
It's true.
I'm going to go with the Eagles.
Okay. Head to the Superdome to play the Saints.
I think Dennis Allen is the worst coach in the league. Give me the Rams.
Spicy. Then they welcome the Buffalo Billerinos.
So the Bills having to go to hot weather in it's December.
It's like a dome-ish.
It's a dome-ish, traveling cross country. That's close. That's real close. Give me the Rams. Give me the Rams.
Okay. Thursday Night Football, Levi Stadium.
Give me the Niners.
They head to New York, to New Jersey to play the Jets.
Give me the turf.
Fighting turf.
give me the fighting turf.
Then they play Arizona at home.
You think they split with Arizona? I wouldn't be surprised if they split with Arizona as well. So give me Arizona here.
This man said he was high on the Rams. Seattle at home, end of season.
Win.
We're looking at a classic 7-10.
Really?
7.
I think a lot of those games are really close.
They're a lot of coin flippy.
Yeah, that feels like the kind of bet I would stay away from, even though I like the Rams, because it feels like so many of these games are going to be 3 point.
It's either, I think the Rams either bet to win the division or you do nothing.
Yeah.
You just go, hey, whoa, just throw a whole wad of cheese curds up in that club.
Let me throw a little bit of a curveball at you.
How dare you?
Let's do Seattle now, because I want to dedicate a long chunk to the Niners. Kind of a transition into an early bar. So let's talk about Seattle.
Bob.
So Seattle, Pete Carroll out, Mike McDonald in.
Marin County's own Redwood High School alumni.
Who?
Pete Carroll.
Really? I didn't know
that.
That explains a lot.
Yeah, it does.
That explains a lot. So Mike
Fighting
McDonald,
Carroll's
defensive coordinator from the Ravens, now the head coach, brought in
one of the top young coaches. So
brought in the head coach of Washington, the college football team, to be their offensive coordinator.
Time out.
Yeah.
Offensive coordinator of Washington.
Oh, really? I thought he was the head coach.
No, head coach went to Alabama.
Oh, you're right. Yep.
Yeah, and he was and he accepted the job to be the offensive coordinator at Alabama, and then went, I don't want to live in Tuscaloosa, and the Seahawks are like, come on down. You want to live in Seattle still?
Yep. So that's Ryan Grubb coming in, who
and his offense, as a Washington fan, his offense is
right. So for those
it's
unaware,
so fun. It's so fun. Do they have the weapons to pull it off? No.
If you saw
Michael
Penix's highlights, that's from his days at Washington. So keep that in mind. So
they need a quarterback, but the rest of it's okay. And an offensive line. The offense is dicey. They just need to score with that defense, score 20 points. It's okay.
One of the largest offseason moves for the Seahawks was the addition of Byron Murphy II in the draft. An incredibly large individual, the second defensive player off the board. Kind of a focus on developing, I think, the offense based off of the people they already had: Kenneth Walker, Zach Charbonnet, JSN, DK Metcalf. They also did bring in
Walker,
sneaky good move, bringing in Sam Howell as a backup, decent backup player. Traded him in what ended up inevitably being a swap with Drew Lock heading to the New York Giants, who will be their starter probably by week 5. So
go Giants!
That team's
they suck.
Okay, so let's do Seattle. What do you got for me?
Starting off strong. Welcome. They have
a 7.5 line, by the way, I believe.
I see. They welcome the Denver Fighting Bronchies.
It's interesting. As of today, Bo Nix named the starter of the Denver Broncos.
It's not too shocking, but
give me the Seahawks. I don't think that's a great spot for a rookie to go week 1.
Probably not a great one. They head to the Patriots.
Win. Taking on another rookie. That's a good start for the Seahawks.
They welcome the Dolphins.
Dolphins traveling cross country. I'm going to go 3 for 3. Give them a win.
I will say it is Seattle in September shouldn't be like a weather things, but
sure. But it's just more of a 12th man. Miami, I feel like is so much better at home.
They head to the 9 Mile at Ford Field. Monday Night Football versus the Lions.
Loss.
Speaking of the Giants, they welcome the oh-so-beautiful New York Giants. Is this the last game of Daniel Jones's career?
I think so, yeah. Give me the Seahawks.
All right. Then they, on a Thursday night football game, they host the 49ers.
Loss. Now, they notoriously, they are one of those teams that play the Niners tough every time.
Yeah. Week 7, Sunday morning game versus the Falcons in Atlanta.
I like the Falcons this year. Give me the Falcons.
All right. Doesn't get any easier. They host the Buffalo Bills.
Again, this is cross country, but I think the Bills are a good enough team. Give me the Bills here.
Fighting Bullock. Let's see here. And then we got they host the Rams.
So I think they're likely to split with the Rams. Give me a win here at home.
Bye week, and then they have the bye week into the Niners at Levi's, though.
Ouch. Man, that's tough. Give me the Niners. As long if both teams are healthy, I think the Niners are just still significantly better.
Then they host the Cardinals.
Win.
And they travel for a Sunday morning game against the Jets.
Geno returns to New York to stink it up again. Give me the Jets.
A classic Jets. Then they head to Arizona for Cardinals. So only a 2-week gap for the Cardinals.
I think they're going to split.
Then they host the Packers.
It's weird. I don't know if I'm biased towards the Packers, but I think they're decently better than the Seahawks. So give me the Packers here.
Okay. Then they host the Vikings.
The Fighting Sam Darnolds. Boom! Well, this is probably Nick Mullins at this point, so give me the Seahawks.
Maybe. Let me just write it out. Then they head to a short week, Thursday Night Football, Bears. At Bears.
Short week on the road. Give me the Bears.
The Bears,
which is really hard to say.
Then they finish the season down in Los Angeles.
That'll be a loss.
All right. And once again, you are consistent. A 7.
I feel like I gave them so many wins too. That's crazy.
Well, they started 4-1.
Yeah.
So things went wrong. Oh, so wrong.
Seattle's a weird team. I think it's really hard to predict first-year head coaches, let alone if Geno Smith can continue his renaissance. Let's move to the bulk of the show. Let's get to the San Francisco 49ers and an early trip to the bar. So the San Francisco 49ers are arguably the story of the offseason so far, at least recently when it comes to the NFL.
They've been taking all the air, so.
As of right now, Trent Williams holding out for a new contract. Brandon Ayuk holding out for a new contract.
Oh, he's holding in.
Oh, he's holding in. Yeah.
Yeah. He's not getting fined, Keeley.
Before I pass it over to you, my understanding of the situation is there was a trade package agreement with both the New England Patriots and the Browns.
Correct.
With both teams willing to give Ayuk a long-term extension, including the Patriots offer being $30+ million a year.
Correct.
However, Brandon Ayuk has declined wanting to go to either of those teams.
Understandably.
And would prefer to play in Pittsburgh if he got moved. There recently, I would say over the last 3 or 4 days, there's been smoke about him returning to the Niners and getting a deal done.
There's been a lot of smoke the last week of him returning.
The longer this goes, the less likely I think the Steelers are going to want to be interested.
Yeah, I think also the Steelers have no real incentive to actually add anything because it's just, hey, 49ers, figure it out or not. Especially with a lot of reports that the Steelers are not wanting to add any players, which would be a catastrophic nuclear, it's hard to mess up a trade Like even if you're forced to do a trade, but it's like if you get no players in your Super Bowl window, like maybe like everyone's been like this is like the last day, like there's gonna be major changes next year to this roster.
Yep, because
And
Brock Purdy is on the last year before
Brock
he's
Purdy's gonna
extension
make
eligible.
$65 million next year.
He's gonna make a lot of money.
Mamma mia.
Now
Which
when
there's
I
another
saw
discussion we'll have another day of does he deserve $65 million? But
the answer is no, but
that's the
the
going rate.
the
But
trade package, from my understanding, was if he was traded to the Browns, it would have been centered around Amari Cooper and a draft pick,
second round pick,
and a second round pick, which would have been a home run.
That would have been great.
If you trade him to New England, it was for one of their young wide receivers that I now can't remember.
It was for
Kendrick Bourne,
the Kendrick Bourne, and basically a first round pick from the. It would have been basically a 33rd overall pick.
Okay.
From the Patriots.
Okay, and then the Steelers won. The biggest rumor I saw was either Van Jefferson, or more likely there was this right guard, I believe. So some offensive lineman depth plus a second round pick.
They drafted a right guard / right tackle in the draft, and that's what all the 49ers like beat writers and things that are like that's what they would want. Of course, the Steelers are like, no.
Yeah. So,
shush.
So that's the big deal. Obviously, this was something that, as you can see in our shorts down below, we've talked about for a while, because we talked about Brandon Ayuk potentially getting traded on draft night. They ended up adding smoke to that fire by drafting Slicky Rick Pearsall at the 31st overall pick. So
the 49ers aren't dumb. They know they need to get cheap wide receivers if they're gonna pay for things.
Right. So
the problem is they probably should have traded Ayuk before the draft.
Yeah, so if you're out of the know in terms of the cap situation, Brock Purdy is still making basically essentially the minimum. He's on his.
It is the minimum for what his draft's like. In the draft, it is the lowest amount you can pay that's not an undrafted free agent, but also even more staggeringly impressive. Not all active game day roster picks are hit against the cap that are on your active roster. It's like the top, and you can quote me like in the bottom, like in the comments, but like it's basically everyone except for like 4 players count against your cap. It's the highest, and he was below them. His contract literally right now is nothing against the cap.
So, and for some people have gotten this messed up, and it's really simple. He is not extension eligible until after this year. They literally cannot offer him a contract until after this year. But
and then after this year, he's like, and they've already said as much. The owner has basically came out at the Super Bowl. It's like, we understand that what it takes to sign a court. The Yorks basically said, yeah, we know. Also, the checkbook's open. The checkbook's coming. They've been planning for this for about a year.
Speaking of the checkbook, you got to think about it this way. So quality players on the Niners who either have expensive contracts or will be getting one within the next year or two. Brandon Ayuk, Deebo Samuel, George Kittle, Brock Purdy, Christian McCaffrey, Trent Williams, Hufanga, Fred Warner, Nick Bosa.
There's also Ward, the cornerback, as well as
Javarius Ward.
Their other cornerback who I'm completely blanking on his name. It's the other one that's not Ambry Thomas. Lenore. He's also turning into a player that a lot of people think could be a potential, like, spicy hot take, like one of the top corners in the league. Of course, if you listen to the 49ers, like, announcers on certain things, you'll be like, he'll just like be like, oh, I love get him. Oh, that's my favorite guy. And we're like, shush, go back into your box and play with your hair. I don't know. It's
so
it's weird.
Let's take a look at how we think they're going to do next season. So they're over under 11.5.
That's very high. It's also their favorite in every single game.
That is true, and I also believe that is the highest win total of any team.
Sounds about right.
I believe they're tied, as I'm quickly scrolling through some of the favorites in the league, they are tied with the Kansas City Chiefs for the
Makes
highest
sense.
over-under.
I don't have an issue with that at all.
Yep, I don't. Yep, that looks like that's correct. Um, so let's take a look. They start Monday Night Football at home against the New York Jets with Leonard Floyd, who tore Rodgers' ACL last year.
It's true. Good old, another fun fact for every people. Not many people will understand this reference at all, but Pop Warner legend, Pop Warner Ukiah legend, Aaron Rodgers, true
Yeah, that's
champion.
so weird.
For knowing the Chico.
All right, who you got?
Jets.
Really?
I fully believe
You
that
are so
this
high on
is.
the Jets.
I am not high on the Jets.
Are you low on the Niners?
I think this is going to be one of those complete clusters. I think Shanahan is going to mess up at least one major fumble because he is actively not doing anything in the preseason, which most people don't, but he
Yeah,
actively
he
does
has
not give a
Kubiak
shit.
coaching during the preseason, right?
Yeah, which is like him probably propping up an assistant more than
Which is
anything.
a
Not that
nice
he's
thing
going
to
to
do, but
call codes. But I have this sneaky suspicion that like they're going to be rusty. There's been like every single question in camp is like, "Where's this guy? Where's Trent? Where's this thing? What are you guys doing? Oh, everyone's hurt." And like they canceled their practice with the Saints, where they
joint
were going to
practice.
fly down their joint practice because of how many injuries they have.
Yep.
I think they'll get it together. I'm going to be this good. Total's going to be lower than you think,
Yeah.
but I think the Jets come in. I think Aaron Rodgers wants to prove he just wants to like.
If there's any team he wants to be, it's San Francisco.
Yeah, I think he's going to do some weird. He's going to do something funky and then throw for like 450 yards.
Which would be crazy because he hasn't thrown for more than 200 something for a while.
The Jets game is, I think, the number one, and it will just be one of those things where all the alarm bells everywhere, and that will be the kick in the butt to get them going. But I think they lose that game, 100%.
Week 2 at Minnesota and fighting Sam Darnold.
That's a win. That's one right there.
At
I think they actively hurt
away.
Yeah.
At the Los Angeles Rams.
I think if they don't lose to the Jets, they lose this one. But because I have the Jets winning, I think they win this one.
For some reason, people can pay to watch the Niners play the New England Patriots at home.
$13 beers, dude. I don't know. Just get crunk at Santa Clara. Like tailgating's still pretty good there.
I mean, sure.
It's not hot. Candlestick, but
it's 105. It's gonna be hot.
It's gonna be very hot. That's gonna be a win. If they don't beat the Patriots, then Kyle's in the hot seat instantly. The entire regime's deep
home to Arizona.
Win.
Travel Thursday night, short week at Seattle.
Loss.
Go from a short week, 10 days rest, home against the Chiefs.
So you'd be like, 10 days against the Chiefs? Oh, do you know what the Chiefs have? A bye week. Do you know what the Seattle had the week before? A bye week. This is going to be a theme for about 5 of these games. Chiefs.
Home against the Dallas Cowgirls. I think if I could make one bet on any team in the entire league, it would be the Cowboys under this year.
Yeah, the problem is I agree, but they got embarrassed so heavily the last time they played that this feels like one of those like we've been circling this game and we're like 2-5 and we have to win this game. I'm gonna pick Cowboys.
I think you're crazy. Bye week at Baker Mayfield and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
They win that one.
Home to Seattle.
Win because they're pissed about the first one.
Travel to Lambeau Field at the tail end of November to play the Green Bay Packers. who they have historically done very well against.
They will win, but I think it's the only one I think in the next couple games they may win.
At Buffalo.
Loss. 100%. They're going to get to the cold and be like, I want to be like, because that's in between Thanksgiving or after Thanksgiving.
That'll be after Thanksgiving. Yep.
Oh, yeah. They're going to go from like, oh, I had fun. I had turkey legs, and George Kittle's going to be eating turkey legs. He's going to be super excited, to like the freezing cold. It'll be like 30 degrees or like 5-degree wind chill. And no, Buffalo wins that game.
Home against your favorite quarterback, Caleb Williams.
Caleb Williams, I think they beat the Bears, even though they weirdly suck against the Bears.
Yeah,
I don't know why. It could be one of those things where if Caleb Williams has arrived, like truly, I would highly think about the Bears. But I don't think he has arrived yet.
You did have Rome Odunze as your wide receiver 1 in this class.
I do. It's not wrong.
So, short week.
I have 49ers win.
Short week. Home against the Rams.
Win.
Okay, so 10 days rest at Miami, 3 days before Christmas.
Who's also coming off a bye. I'm gonna pick.
They have a bye week in week 15.
Yeah,
that's disgusting. What? That's so gross.
Welcome to the boys, baby.
That's honestly not bad for them because they gotta go home for Christmas and stuff.
I'm gonna pick the 49ers. Only because I think they are going to have to win, so they're going to, like, kick their shit in line.
Monday Night Football, the day before New Year's Eve, in Eminem's house in Detroit.
I'll have...
Revenge game for the NFC Championship game.
Yeah, I think this game matters way more to the Lions. I agree.
I absolutely agree. Week 18 at Arizona.
This is the game they traditionally lose because they'll already be locked into the playoffs, but they'll not have the first overall seed and they can't move their position from they don't get a first round bye and they'll go at like the second or third seed. So I'm still going to say win, but this is one of those ugly like 20-17 games where no one's happy. And then you talk about going into playoffs like, are the 49ers okay?
Yeah. Well, you're as consistent as ever. 11 wins when it's 11.5 as the line. So,
hit that under.
Yeah.
Do not take betting advice from me.
Yeah.
I'd like to say, unless I'm paid. Don't.
So, a lot of the matchups for the 49ers, as a lot of people have discussed, are difficult because of circumstances you wouldn't normally see just looking at their schedule. A lot of teams are coming off a bye. A lot of teams are motivated to beat the 49ers because of what happened last year, the year before. So there's a lot of interesting wrinkles for the Niners.
This season feels like one of those weird, awkward, like nothing went right in the regular season, but they're still talented. Then they make the playoffs, and then everyone says heading into the playoffs, hey, you don't want to play the 49ers in the playoffs, and then the 49ers kick the crap out of people in the playoffs, and then
I think this is
either lose in the NFC Championship game or go to the Super Bowl again.
I think this is
one of those weird years.
This is a year where the Niners just want to get to the playoffs whole.
Yeah.
Get to the playoffs moderately uninjured, and you feel like you've got a shot. Now, personally, I think they've got a bad matchup into the Lions. I think the Lions were really inexperienced last year, and that's why they stumbled. They were up, 17 points, I think? 14, 17 points at one point.
But
I'm really bullish on the Lions.
Jared Goff.
That's fine. Jared Goff loves playing in California.
That's true, but it's one of those things
played
where
down the road.
He did. I covered him in high school. I know.
Yeah, he played high school ball in California. He played college ball in California. Like, he is comfortable there.
He is a good quarterback if he can stand upright. If he stands upright for 80% of that game, they win.
That's what the Lions know that, though. The Lions, like, it hurts to say because I'm a Packers fan. The Lions are, like, my favorite run organization in the league. Just the way they build their roster up, the way they
I've just always been a Lions fan just because they've been, like, I always admired them from afar as, like, oh, look, it's that bad team. It was the same reason, like, the Tigers in the mid-2000s or the Royals, where I'm just like, I know you have like 2 shots at a Super Bowl or a World Series in the next 50 years,
Yeah, and then you're
like,
done.
go get it, boys. Yeah. Go get it.
So let's transition from football for just a little bit. We're going to take a look at...
Do you want to do shooty or do you want to do kick?
We're going to do kick. So let's talk about your adventures in the town of Oakland.
It's true. Last week, I believe it was. That's true. I was invited out to the Oakland Coliseum by the Oakland Roots for a press conference in the Treehouse, which, if you don't know, at the Oakland Coliseum is like their brand new top left field area. It's actually pretty nice for such an old stadium. It's so frustrating that stadium has so many things wrong with it, but there's so much quirky charm. I love it. It's a big old rock in the middle of nowhere, which is great transit. But the local, with the A's moving to Sacramento permanently or not, no one is in the Oakland Coliseum next year, and the local professional soccer team, which is in the division below the MLS, they're trying to get into the MLS, but just below the MLS, the Oakland Roots, which has been basically a huge local grassroots program, which has a lot of money. Like, they've got owners like Jason Kidd and Marshawn Lynch and a whole bunch of stuff.
Which makes sense because they both went to Cal.
I'm also from Oakland. They have signed a lease for 17 home games. The mayor of Oakland was there, a whole bunch of other politicians, same with a whole bunch of other dignitaries of local, but they've agreed to play 17 home games and hopefully playoff games, hosted within the confines of the Oakland Coliseum. So there still will be games at the Oakland Coliseum. Everyone's like, what are they going to do with the Coliseum? Well, the Oakland Roots are there, and they're looking to build their own stadium in one of the parking lots. It's one of the south lots.
We should do a live report from there from one of the games.
I'll talk to I know a guy.
Yeah,
I know a guy. But no, the Oakland Roots are sick. They have the best kit in all of soccer, in my opinion.
Which, by the way, matters. Like, that matters. That's a really good way to get fans.
Their team scarf and their all their things, because it's like a stained glass rainbow with like the Oakland tree. Oh, it is a legitimately top flight logo. And their entire thing super run well. Like, the organization, the media, the communications team there, and they win. Like, they did really well. They played against the Earthquakes in the U.S. Cup. They've played against the I think it's the Monarchs or the Royals out in not Real Salt Lake. It's out in Sacramento. But they're legit, and they care about Oakland, which the A's sadly do not. Ownership. I want to be very specific. Ownership, because the players and the
best fans and players
do. It is some of the most fun you will ever have is going to an Oakland A's game in a lot of people consider the dump at the Coliseum, but it's goddamn art dump.
Yeah,
I love that place.
Let's take a very brief visit to baseball.
Baseball. Whoa.
The San Francisco Giants have continued to be the definition of mid all year. They're 65-64 as of this recording, one game over 500.
Let them go.
I officially don't think they're going to make the playoffs. I think they're going to be on the outside looking in for a bit.
They're going to need a run. They're going to need a big run, which they've proven to not been able to go on a big run this year.
Now, tell me if you've heard this before. Their starting pitching is disgusting, and their hitting stinks. Who would have guessed? It's like we're back in the Matt Cain days. We've got Logan Webb, Blake Snell, Kyle Harrison, Jordan Hicks,
Hayden Birdsong looking really good.
Birdsong's been looking good.
The biggest thing for them, I think, is if you can find a way, because Boris is still the agent for Chapman, and they're going to opt out.
Yeah, Snell's going to opt out too.
Chapman has said, "Hey, I like this management, and I want to stay here." Roughly, he hasn't fully been oh, 100%. It's hey, make the money right, but.
Sure.
You can make that. You can get a free agent to sign here long term. Snell has said, hey, it was huge to me that you did not trade me at the deadline. And outside of Seattle, where he's from and where he has a house, Seattle throwing a shitload of money, because the thing is, though, Seattle technically doesn't need him. Yeah. Their pitching staff is disgusting.
Pretty good, yeah.
The Giants,
they need him.
be smart. Though we'll see if there's a regime change. I mean, we'll see if Farhan stays for another year.
No, I think their manager. I think he goes, and their manager.
I think he does. I think they give him 1 year of just like it's playoffs or fire. There's a decent chance there. Depending on how the rest of if they completely tank the rest of the season, yeah, he'll be gone. But I think you have to sign Snow. You have to sign Chapman. You get Jung-Hoo Lee back next year. Like, Tyler Fitzgerald has been a weird phenomenon.
He's been nuts. Him and Heliot Ramos this year have been absolutely for some reason disgusting.
You plucked out of nowhere. Do you think they're going to do that again? Probably not, but you at least can think about starting. Like, you can think about them being here for a little bit, you know?
The player I want to focus on. I get it. He's incredible defensively. Patrick Bailey is almost unplayable offensively. He has 3 hits in 53 at-bats in August.
Okay, I can kind of explain that one. So, 2 things with him. He has an oblique strain that he's probably been playing on for the last month.
Okay, that'll do it.
And he's also a switch hitting catcher and the catcher for the entire staff. So my guess is a lot of people last year, he admitted he was fatigued. This year, I think it's literally that he's got 17,000 things he has to do perfectly. And basically he's doing the defensive because his pop time and his framing, and he is by far the top defensive catcher in baseball.
Yeah, it's not close.
And the pitchers love him and all the things. So like, that's all great. But he's on the DL right now, or technically the 10-day injured list thing. Yeah. But it's a oblique where they basically have said, we don't want to push it because then he's out for the year.
Just to put this in perspective, the Giants just lost to the White Sox.
Yeah, that's true.
Who stink.
It's true. Historically bad. But they did win 2 of 3.
They won 2 of 3. I don't care. If you can't sweep the Chicago White Sox this year, you don't deserve to get to the playoffs. You just don't. Especially at home.
All right, so that's an argument the people have made on Twitter tonight, and I get that. That makes sense.
Let's
I think there's still a small chance just because, like, the Braves are a walking hospital ward, and
no one wants to play the Giants because that pitching staff is so gross.
The thing is that, like, the Mets, like, people are like, oh, the Mets are right behind the Braves, and I'm like, I know the Mets.
Yeah, we know the Mets.
The Mets will find a way not to make the playoffs. It's the Mets. And if they do well, then
let's take our last stop. Let's go on over to basketball.
Beep, beep.
We missed a lot of the offseason, just how it goes. We're going to specifically today just finish up by talking about the Warriors because they obviously are our local team. Obviously the biggest news, which still hurts to this day, is the loss of Klay Thompson. He has since moved on to the Dallas Mavericks via sign-in trade.
Which is
still weird. I mean, that offense, when you can put out Luka, Kyrie, and Klay, is going to be gnarly. If Klay can just be potentially just focus on defense and sitting in the corner, watch out. When it comes to the Warriors and their acquisitions, they added Buddy Hield and Slow-Mo Kyle Anderson, as well as DeAnthony Melton.
Yeah, if Melton can stay healthy,
Melton's like a defensive guard, right?
He is a classic. He's a classic lockdown defender. Slightly bit small, but like he can still guard your 1-2s and some small 3s, but more on the 1 and 2s. But he is a person who you can trust to put in a corner, and Steph brings 3 people his way, and Steph passes that way, and he shoots a consistent 3. And to be frank, I haven't had that, which is impressive to say, just because Klay was basically like a runaway fire hydrant, because like you could tell the last year and a half he's been a little grumpy, he's been a little pissy,
Yeah,
And
Klay's
you can
been.
kind of tell he was kind of like, I love, and it's one of those things where he's on the Warrior, he gets stature up front. I love that he took a boat to games, but you could tell that he was just kind of just like, do you know
Yeah,
who
I
I am?
mean,
And
Draymond
it's
Green
like,
in an
yes,
interview.
you're an aging player who's had 2 major knee surgeries, and you're slowing down. And that Father Time is undefeated, and that sucks.
I
That
wish I could
sucks.
give proper credit, but Draymond Green was on a podcast, might have been his own podcast, honestly, where he talked about Klay getting moved to the Mavericks, and he said he was really happy for Klay simply because like he was not happy in Golden State anymore. He just wasn't.
No.
And that sucks because Klay Thompson, I think pretty convincingly is my favorite player I've ever watched. So he's my
Oh,
favorite Golden State Warrior I've ever watched. So when it comes to like favorite players, like you could get other teams like MVP Derrick Rose was hilarious to watch, watching Shaq or Bron or Kobe and all these guys, but me personally, I've always been a defense first guy in every single like sport I watch.
you
So
psychopath.
Klay was the definition of defense and then also a quality insane hot streak contributor on offense. So if I'm looking at the lineup right now, the Warriors are probably going to bring out Curry plays the 1, Pajemski plays the 2.
It's the pods.
The 3 I guess is going to be Kuminga. I guess
It's
you put
still
Kuminga at the 3, Draymond at the 4, and Trace Jackson Davis at
it's
the 5.
still Wiggins currently, unless they trade him.
There's
Which
rumors he might retire. Like he's got
there
personal stuff. Like
there's
he
a lot
canceled
of
the
shit
trip
going
to
on.
China, I think.
Yeah, he canceled a trip to China because of family issues, which we don't know about, but from the journalists I know that know, it's pretty messed. Like
Yeah.
it's not it's pretty messed up overall.
I think we want to be clear on this podcast that we would never criticize Andrew Wiggins for the stuff he's dealing with, but at some point we have to focus on his ability to play basketball for the Warriors. And
Yeah.
as of right now, I don't think he's good enough to be a starter given where his head's at. He was horrible last year. And again, I feel
Yeah,
bad for
that's
him.
fair. I
He was
still think it's
bad.
one of those things where Steve Kerr is going to start him until Kaminga proves that does the things that they want him to do. They also Kaminga thinks he's a 3, while the Warriors think he's a 4, which they still have to figure out. And Kaminga's also eligible for a max extension now, which he has also verbally said, "I want the max."
I don't think
Which
he's on this
is
team come trade deadline. I don't think so.
I think that's probably correct. It just depends on what because there was the whole flirting with Marketing.
Yep.
I'm like he would have been perfect if any other GM owned his contract that wasn't named Danny Ainge.
Which the rumor floated out about the Marketing deal was that the Jazz wanted. I mean, obviously the Jazz wanted everything because they've got Danny Ainge.
The Jazz wanted everything.
But the big player they wanted was actually Pajemski because
it
he's
was
on an
Pajemski.
easier contract for a longer time. They don't have to give the max to Kuminga, who might not fit their timeline. And the other rumor floated out by Warriors management was that they never offered Pajemski or Kuminga. That it was basically Moody, Looney, and draft pick focus, which I do not believe.
I don't believe them at all.
I think Kuminga got offered. I don't think Pajemski got offered.
I think it was probably one of those things where they said, "Hey, you can have Pods, or you can have Kuminga, but you don't get any post Seth Curry first round picks."
Yeah,
and the Jazz went, but why not both?
Yeah, the Jazz. Well, the report was the Jazz wanted every swap, every pick they could get, plus Moody, Kuminga, and Pajemski.
Yeah.
So.
What I don't understand about the Jazz right now is you just signed Markkanen, and Markkanen is a fantastic player. He's a great number 2 on a playoff contending team. He finally
get traded to either Oklahoma City, Cleveland, or the Warriors is so disgusting because he's so perfect for all 3 of those teams.
Yes, but I also understand. Okay, so he started actually shooting once he played for the Finnish national team, and everyone understood. Oh, you can actually
you can do this.
Yeah. And he's like, yeah, they told
me to not do that. They were like, use your athleticism and do stuff, and he was like, Oh.
The biggest thing that I do not understand about the Jazz is you look at the Jazz's roster and they've got like 6 I call them like fledgling players where they're like, this is a starter in the NBA, but I don't know if it's a good starter or if it's something you want to build around. I'm looking
They
at
had
like
what?
Sexton.
They had Markkanen, Sexton, who played really well for the Jazz last year. Markkanen,
Utah.
Sexton, John Collins, Walker Kessler.
They're also paying.
They're paying Jordan Clarkson.
Yeah, Clarkson. They also drafted, but like, yeah, Jordan Clarkson, Colin Sexton.
Were they the team that ended up with Jovic, or was that Oklahoma City?
They also have Walker Kessler, which reported that you could get him for a first round pick, which seemed very low. But this team has like 5 players that you'd be like, those are players I know. Those sound competent. Those sound like good things. But then you're also like, hey guys, Cooper goddamn Flag is in there. Like there is
It's Nikola Topic. My apologies, and it's also probably Nikola because that's how you actually.
There's a non-0% chance that Lauri Markkanen is going to be paid, whatever that max is, like 40, 47, ungodly amount of money, to sit on the bench and not play, as he did not play, because they're like I don't understand the Jazz. Like there is the next greatest white player, which Utah really would get behind, and he's legitimately like one of the top young players that's going to he's probably going to do
best white player things. Not named
specifically American born as well. American born.
I was gonna say Jokic and Doncic, but
but no, coming from Maine of all places, yeah.
So, by the way,
that's who the Jazz need to be tanking for. And Portland's over here just like, yes.
The 3 picks the Jazz took were Cody Williams, I believe, brother of Jalen Williams, J-Dub of the Oklahoma City Thunder.
Yes, I also think he played down at Chaminade in LA.
They also picked Isaiah Collier and Kyle Filipowski, so good players. Like
Filipowski.
I know he was a controversial player.
Well, he's controversial because his I think his girlfriend or his wife was like his babysitter. It's a long Mormon thing, he's in Utah. He's in a good bad place.
He's in a good place.
Well, his family are like, well, we lost him to his wife and she's gone now.
So just to clean this up. So realistically, Curry, Pajemski, either Kuminga or Wiggins, Draymond Green, Trace Jackson Davis.
You hope that Kuminga is the second best scorer on this team.
You really
and if he's not, you're not having a good time.
Off the bench, so you're going to have
a second unit of slow-mo.
You're going to have Kyle Anderson, Buddy Hield, DeAnthony Melton, Moses Moody, GP2, and Kevon Looney. Some combination thereof.
Yeah, there's also Trace Jackson Davis.
I have him.
You have him starting? Okay, fair. Yeah.
Because God, do they need the athleticism? But that is going to do it for the day. We have gone to a trip to the bar. We've talked about the San Francisco 49ers and how we think the NFC West will go.
Ayuk is still not signed.
Yeah, hopefully by next podcast we will have an update on that. Hopefully
I think Trent Williams will sign by next podcast.
Yeah, no, that makes sense.
Yeah, he's also the guy that one of the only players on the team. I'm like, you could miss the entire preseason, roll out of bed, and probably be fine. You may roll your ankle, but
next show we should, if all goes according to plan, be doing the NFC South preview to finish off the NFC. We've got 2 weeks and 1 day until we are in football season. So
2-15 Saints. 2-15 Saints.
That team is not
2-15 Saints.
Spencer Rattler's going to play more than people want to admit.
Wow. Jay Kaner.
Yeah.
Jay Kaner.
No, it's going to be
Jay Kaner.
Thank you guys for joining us. We appreciate you guys as always.
Out of Vista High School, let's go.
As always, leave a like, leave a comment. Really helps us out. Check out our shorts down below as well. Check out our socials. Thanks for being here. We'll catch you guys next time. Have a good one.